So you mentioned Ed Kemper a few minutes ago. I know a few months ago, or even a few weeks ago, when the Idaho murders were unsolved, he was, I guess, brought in as like a contributor. Is that right? On the case to help solve it?
No, he was brought in. We are in touch, good communication with a journalist you really should have on the show. He has been working with Ed Kemper for, I think, the last 3 years, and he visits him regularly. So knowing that, we said to Greg, why don't you see, this is before they had identified a suspect. I said, why don't you see what Ed Kemper would suggest in the case? Because that had happened with Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy was brought in on some cases, obviously years ago. So Greg said, sure. And he said, but there's nothing out there that I can take him. I said, well, there is all that was being published at the time was the outside of the building, the house, remember, and the cliffs. And so I said, just take them the photos. We sent them the photos. They're on the internet. And so he did. And he met with them. And first of all, Ed Kemper said he did not have access. He did not know the case because he only got local radio, I guess. He didn't have a TV or anything. So he knew nothing about it, which was good in that term. So he looked at the photos, and guess what he said? I was right on. He looked at the cars. And he said, who do these cars belong to? Remember, they had a photo where they had the back of the house, I guess. And how did the current suspect get picked up? His car. I mean, that was one of the things. Remember the white Hyundai or something, whatever. So, and then he did say some other things, of course. I think Greg asked him. He said he would never have. I can't exactly remember now. I'd have to go to my notes, but he made a couple of other really interesting comments. And we often had thought about when you have a case that doesn't have any suspects, of using their input. Isn't it as good as perhaps any other citizen, if you will, even though they're incarcerated. So I just thought that he picked up on the car was fascinating.
Hmm. Yeah, I've always found it interesting that the FBI have used other serial killers to catch other serial killers. I think that's super fascinating to me.
Sure. Well, those the ones that don't forget in computer work, you want the ones that they get caught for invading computers and so forth. They're the best ones to help in terms of how do you get in and out of programs. They use those all the time. Not necessarily. I don't know about FBI, but I know about corporate America often can use it. Where they've hacked in. How do they hack in? What do they have to change?